There's seats up here still, if you want. 1 and 2.
All right, welcome. Should we start?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to start off with a story. So there's 3 generations of women preparing Thanksgiving dinner, and they're cooking a ham. Okay, so we have the grandma right here, then we have the mom, and then we have the daughter. Okay, so the mom, the one's in the middle, she has a ham, and she's cutting the end of the ham off. All right, she's cutting the end of the ham off. And then the daughter asks Mom, "Why are you cutting the end of the ham off?" And then the mom says, "Well, that's what Grandma always did, so let me ask Grandma why she cut the ham off." So then she asked Grandma, "Why are you cutting the ham off?" And then Grandma said, "Because my pan was too small." That's supposed to be a joke. He, like lighten it up a little bit. Okay, so my whole point of the story on that whole thing is a tradition was followed, and there's really no scientific basis behind it. So what I'm going to be talking about tonight is, what I practice is functional medicine. So if you haven't heard about what functional medicine is, basically it's an individualized, tailored, custom, individual plan to get you better. The way I consider it, what functional medicine is, it's like the invention of the iPhone, right? When the iPhone first came out, there's no such thing as the iPhone. And the iPhone revolutionized how people communicated. This is really what functional medicine is. It's a whole revolutionized methodology of actually getting sick people better. So it's not like building on something that's already existing. It's brand new stuff. So the stuff that I'm going to be talking about this is like literally the cutting edge stuff on how to get sick people better. So before we begin, I just want to have a success story of Jillian here, who's one of our team members. So if she could come up, and she's going to give just a little success story. Try not to touch this thing here because I have that specifically. Okay. Okay, good. So just say hi to everyone. This is Jillian.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so Jillian, you've been diagnosed with diabetes, right?
Yeah, about 3-4 years ago.
Okay, 3-4 years ago. Okay, and since you started these protocols, which we're going to be sharing with everybody here, you started when did you start the protocols?
Right when we got this stuff. So
Okay.
it's been about 2-3 weeks.
Okay, 2-3 weeks. I've been doing the protocols now for, I would say, like a year or 18 months. So two or 3 weeks, how is your brain fog? So you had brain fog, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let me just say. So raise your hand if you feel like you have brain fog. Just raise your hand if you feel like you have brain fog to some degree. Raise your hand. Okay, all right, about 25%. So you had brain fog, and when you had brain fog, what did that look like? What kind of problems were you having?
You just weren't thinking clearly. It was like you're waking up early in the morning, only if you feel that way the whole day, you're just tired.
Okay, and since you've been doing the protocol for 3 to 4 weeks, what have you noticed just with the brain fog?
Oh my gosh, there's a huge difference. I feel so much clearer. I can think. It's like a night and day difference. It's amazing what I notice.
Okay, awesome. And then just tell people some other things that you notice, like you talk about your hunger and fatigue and those kind of things.
Well, I used to go home after work and I would open the refrigerator out and I would take the food out, put it on the counter, and I would munch as I'm getting my dinner ready. So I would be eating at 9 o'clock at night, not only this dinner that I made, but I'd be snacking before too. I was just so hungry. And since I started this, I go home and I'll open the fridge and I'm like, I'm not even hungry. It's just crazy. It's just nuts.
Okay, awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
It's not me.
And in the next hour, everyone's gonna be able to have this good win. So, and then you also talk about your weight.
Within the first couple of weeks, I lost 7 pounds.
Okay.
And I wasn't even, trying to do it. It's just that you're just not hungry. So it was just kind of coming off.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool.
All right, well, give her a round of applause. All right, thank you. I just want to check my video, make sure that we're still recording it.
How's your diabetes?
Oh, we forgot to mention that. the diabetes, your
My numbers are down about 30 to 50 points.
yeah, that one I didn't write that down. That was huge. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so let's get into it. So this is the first time I've done this workshop, so I don't know. I try and get stuff done within an hour, but we'll just see how long it takes. Might go maybe an hour and 10 minutes. So here's a video. I try and do a lot of things with pictures because I'm a picture learner. So you're only as healthy as your individual cell membranes. All right. So you're only as healthy as your individual cell what? Membranes. Okay. So here's just a picture, a video actually. So this is your cell membrane right here. Okay. And you can see how things will like move in and outside of the cell, right? Okay. So things are out here. Things diffuse from the outside and go back into the inside. And then you also have like these transporter things that move things from the inside to the outside. It's back and forth, okay? So what we're really going to be talking about here is getting your cell membranes as healthy as possible. Because once you start to get your cell membranes as healthy as possible, this is when like your problems just start to go away. Your body has more of a ability to heal and function once you restore your cell membranes. So here, this is on your sheet. If you want to look at this here, I thought I had some notes. Do we have any extra notes? Can I just use your notes here? Okay, so one of the things we're going to talk about is, are you inflamed? Okay, so how do you know if you're inflamed? Well, you know if you're inflamed by you measure it. Okay, you measure this stuff through labs, and this will tell you if you're inflamed and to what degree that you're inflamed. So if you look on your notes right here, so right up in here, small little print, sorry about that. That tells you these are basically basic labs, where it says 1 through 6 right there. Those are basic labs that would tell you if you're inflamed or not. Okay, so if your numbers are more than these numbers here, that would tell you that you're actually inflamed. So I'm just going to kind of go over these numbers right here. So first of all, so these are the basic six markers that we check to see if you're inflamed. Because one of the things that we're just trying to do is you're only as healthy as your individual cell membranes. If you decrease your inflammation in your body, your cell membranes just get better. That's just what happens, okay? So here, fasting insulin. So insulin is made by your pancreas, right? I just want to kind of give you some like anatomy. So your pancreas is right behind your liver right here. So anytime that you would eat, let's say spaghetti, your pancreas is going to see that, and that's going to break down to glucose, and your insulin is going to start to go up. Okay, so I just want to make sure everyone understands that. If you eat a bagel, your glucose or your insulin is going to go up. Okay, it goes up. We don't want up insulin. So in here, the lab range, okay, the lab range is 2 to 20 pretty much. Okay, that's a big range. Functional, healthy people that don't have any inflammation in their body is 5 or less. All right, fasting glucose. Anyone in diabetes in here? Prick your finger. Okay, so functioning, right? Functioning, we want this between 80 and 85. Okay, that's an optimal, that's the sweet spot. This is the lab range, 65 to 99. So you see these ranges are very, very broad. We're looking for where do healthy people live. Your A1C, which is a marker of your 90-day, how much glucose you have in your bloodstream over a 90-day period. Right, so anything above 5.8 would be considered pre-diabetic. Functionally, the sweet spot is 5.2. Triglycerides, you want this less than 100. Okay, now here's what happens when people eat a lot of sugar. Right, so if you're inflamed, you're eating a lot of sugar. The glucose is in your bloodstream. That goes to your liver, and your liver converts the glucose into what? Triglycerides. Okay, so this is an indication. When I see blood work and I see triglycerides over 100, I automatically know with 100% certainty that this person is eating too many carbohydrates, too many sugars, such as pastas, cereals, oatmeals. All right, and that takes a lot of energy to convert sugar to triglycerides. That's a very, just hold your questions till the end, write them down, you can ask me at the end. So that's a very, it takes a lot of energy to convert glucose into triglycerides. Okay, it's a lot of energy. So if your body's converting sugar to sugar to triglycerides, you don't have energy because it's used just making triglycerides. Okay, CRP, which is an inflammatory marker, it's a global inflammatory marker. You want this less than 1, that's a sweet spot. Lab is 3.1. Okay, then another marker right here, which is your sediment rate, which is, again, it's just another marker for inflammation. You want this less than 10. On lab range is 30. So on your sheet there, can I grab your sheet right here? So on your sheet right here, if you have any blood work at all, this is the sweet spot. That's where you want. If you look at your blood work and you see your triglycerides at 150, that's telling you that you're eating too many carbs, that you are inflamed. Okay? All right, so here's what happens when you're inflamed. All right, so chronic inflammation. So what does this do to your body? All right, so here's what happens. Can everyone see this picture? Okay, how many is this person seeing right there? Is that person seeing one car? No, they're seeing 2, right? So this is a little blurry, okay? So here's what happens when you are chronically inflamed, right? So if your markers are I'm just going to be using this. Oh, you have 2. Oh, you got 2. Okay, here I got 1. So if your markers, right, are more than this sweet spot here, your immune system is seeing not 1, but how many? 2. And depending on how inflamed you are, it might see 4, 8, 16, 32. Right? So what happens here is when you're inflamed, your immune system has had too many what? Beers. All right? So it doesn't know what's friend or foe. What's friend or foe? So if your immune system has too many beers and it sees like your thyroid, or it sees your intestinal system, or it sees your heart, what's your immune system going to do? It's always going to be what? More aggressive. It's always going to attack. So when you are chronically inflamed, your body here is under literally attack. This is why autoimmune diseases are very, very rampant, because the immune system, everyone's inflamed, and your immune system doesn't know if it's friend or foe, so it attacks everything. Okay? So then we have all these different funny diseases, Hashimoto's, lupus. Basically, all these diseases come down to an autoimmune system that's had a few too many what? Beers. And it's had a few too many beers because it's chronically what? Inflamed. Now, how do you determine if you're inflamed? You measure. Like, let's be scientific. Let's measure inflammation. These are the key inflammatory markers. If you have something other than this, your body to some degree or another is inflamed, and your immune system is attacking itself to some degree or another. Okay? So what we really want to try and do here is, this is the cell membrane. Okay? You're 100 trillion cells. All right? So when you're inflamed, these cells don't function optimally, and things cannot get in and out of the cells, and you become toxic, and you become more and more inflamed. So what happens here, you're only as healthy as your individual cell what? Membranes. Okay, so I'm going to use a very, very, very technical term. Okay, everyone ready? When you're chronically inflamed, here's the big medical term. In Latin, your cells become very crusty, Judy. Okay? That's the big Latin term. They become very crusty. Okay, just like a jelly donut. You have a good jelly donut, a fresh jelly donut, and then you have a jelly donut that's a week old. It's very crusty, right? Now, how do you determine if your cells are crusty? You what? You measure. Okay, let's measure it and figure it out. So if your cells become crusty, things can't get into the cell, and things cannot get what? Out of the cell. So when Jillian came up here and said, oh, all this stuff was clearing, right, what did we just do? With the basic protocols we implemented, we made her cell membranes more healthy, and she starts to function healing at a much higher level. So these are some labs. I just want to kind of go over some labs for people. So this is one of my patients that came in. Anyone have a thyroid disease here, hypothyroid or anything like that? Okay. Wow, 25%. Wow, a lot of people. Okay, so this is a measure. Okay, this is a statistic. Okay, 90% of people that have hypothyroidism, Jackie, have an autoimmune disease. Okay, so let me just state that again. The medical research shows if people that have hypothyroid disease, 90% have an autoimmune disease. And if you have an autoimmune disease, we automatically know what's happening in your body's inflammation. It is what? It's up. You're inflamed. Okay, so this test measures how aggressive an autoimmune disease is, specifically against thyroid tissue. Okay? Now this lady came to me, she's in her mid-40s, overweight, thinning hair, constipation, diarrhea, chronic fatigue, and they diagnosed her, the conventional system, diagnosed her with this autoimmune disease. See, but the thing is, they don't have any tools to handle this. If you have an autoimmune disease, what do they give you in the conventional system? Drugs, prednisone. Okay? Nasty, nasty drugs. So check this marker out. If you can see this, this should be less than 9. Okay, so you want this less than 9. Okay, when she first came into me, anyone see this marker? It's what? 4,600. 4,600. It should be less than what? 9. Now after 5 months, let's check. After 5 months, it went to 4,600 to what? 2,600. A 2,000 point decrease. In how many months? 5. What did we do with her body's inflammation? It went what? Down. Because when you decrease your body's inflammation, your body knows, hey, that's thyroid tissue. I'm not going to what? Attack it. Hey, I know that's your digestive system tissue. I'm not going to what? Attack it. Okay, then on top of that, we measured, right? We measured her CRP, which is the measurement that's on the back there. It was initially what? 19. We want this less than 1. It's now what? 13. Let's measure, okay? Don't guess. Let's measure. Here's a couple cool things right here. Here's her cholesterol. Was 227, and now it's down to what? 160. People have elevated cholesterol because people are what? Inflamed. Cholesterol is a healing agent. Cholesterol heals every scar in your body. So if you're chronically inflamed, right, you have micro tears in your body sees all these micro tears, and what do you think it does with cholesterol production? It starts to what? Increase it. It increases it because it tries to heal those tissues, okay? All right, so I do some self-experiments on me. So I'm not sitting up here saying that I'm perfect by any means, all right? So about 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, I decided to get a glucose meter, right? I just bought one online, and I started taking my glucose level in the morning, and my glucose was sitting, sometimes I would see 114 in the morning. Okay, this is 2 years ago. And I was thinking, wow, 114? Fasting in the morning, it was 114, and that the sweet spot should be what? 80-85. I'm thinking, wow, I got some problems, man. Right? I'm just like, I'm not going to tell anyone this secret. So then I would check it, like, shit, it's still over 100. Right? So I'm just like, okay, I got some problems here. I think I eat pretty decent, but obviously something's not working. What I'm doing isn't working, right? So then that's when I started hitting my diet and doing more research. And, this is one of my fasting glucose. This is like about 11 a.m. You can see it's 69. So I still check my glucose levels because I want to make sure that's in the sweet spot, okay? So, so this is kind of like the foods that I eat. So this would be, this is like chicken, right? This is like, you get this at Target. Now when I make this chicken, I cut up in small little pieces, and then I put like 3 or 4 tablespoons of what in the frying pan? Butter. Okay, Mama says butter makes everything what? Better. Add butter because butter makes everything better. Okay, so I add a bunch of butter. All right, and you'll be seeing why I add butter. Okay, then there was so much like grease and butter in there. I'm like, I can't waste that stuff. So then I put 2 eggs in there to soak up all the grease and butter. All right, and those were really, really good eggs. Okay, and then on top of that, I have an avocado. Right, so this meal is completely, almost 100% what? Fat. Okay, you'll see why this is so critical. Okay, these are some salads. We get this geared up with my son. We're at Whole Foods. I said, what do you want to eat, buddy? He says, I want the what? Salad. Okay, I put salad on it and I douse it with oil, olive oil. All right. If you need a snack, I have a recipe online. It's called the Fat Bomb, but literally it's all fat. Basically, it's coconut oil, MCT oil, macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts are the highest density fat nut available, right? We have this cocoa butter, cocoa butter, okay? But it's a whole recipe. You make these little cups, you put it in the freezer, you put some stevia in there, and it tastes like a big, nice Snickers bar. How many people like Snickers bar? I love Snickers, okay? So I just open up my refrigerator, and there's a Snickers bar, but it's all completely what? Fat. There's no carbs in it. All right. So this comes down to the A1C. This is a 90-day marker. Why is it a 90-day marker? Because your red blood cells only live 90 days, then they die, right? So you see here, this would be a red blood cell with a lot of what? Those blue things are what? Sugar. Okay, that's the sugar. It's the sugar sticking out of the molecule. These things cause your body to be what? Chronically inflamed. Okay, then we have a red blood cell that has a low A1, the marker's A1C, not a lot of sugar. Okay, but here's the thing. Here's what I want to point out here. We want your A1C to be at 5.2 or less. So that's an average blood glucose of what? 103. That's with meals, right? After meals, we want it to be 103. Now, if you're pushing the area of like being pre-diabetic, you're at 120. So really, that's a 17-point difference between being healthy, decreasing your inflammation, and being chronically what? Inflamed, right? These small little things are what's going to get you better. Okay, now this is a shocker. This slide is a shocker. I've shown this slide before, so if you've been to some of my workshops, you might have seen this before. Okay, but this is quite shocking. Okay, so how many grams of sugar are in the human body at any given time? Any guesses? Basically, it's what's that? Teaspoon. Okay, a teaspoon. This right here, this teaspoon. This is how much sugar should be in your body at any given time. This is all you need right there to run your whole body. This isn't my opinion. This isn't like Dr. Hugh's opinion. This is factual data. One what? Teaspoon. Okay, 4 grams. So blood glucose, of which is 80, right? Which is a healthy blood sugar, turns out to be about 4/5 of a teaspoon. Okay, 4/5 of a teaspoon. Blood sugar at 126 equals 1 1/4 teaspoon. Okay, this is how much sugar we should have. So let's say you get up in the morning and you have a bagel and you have orange juice. How many grams of sugar in a bagel? How many is that? 50. 50 grams. How many grams do you need at any given time in your body? 4. That is how much? That is 10x on what you need. So if you're eating a bagel, okay, with jelly and orange juice, your body is chronically what? Inflamed. Okay? And they tell you, or that's another one, Cheerios. Right? Eat Cheerios because it's going to lower your cholesterol, but you're going to become a diabetic. And then on top of that, you put what kind of milk? Skim milk without any fat. That is literally just opening up the sugar, container of the sugar, and just doing what? Just downing the sugar just like that. Okay? Okay, so this next one is a video here. So I'm going to stop and interject.
Have you ever wondered why, despite all the fat-free foods, weight loss programs, and gym memberships, so many of us seem to be getting fatter? Every day, everywhere, we're bombarded with countless numbers of ads and articles all telling us how to lose fat. But did you know our bodies already know how? As we eat, our body converts our food into glucose, a simple sugar that travels through our bloodstream. This glucose is the primary food for our cells. Whether it's a muscle cell or a brain cell or a cell in our heart, they all feed on glucose. As glucose moves through our bloodstream, our pancreas produces a hormone called insulin. Insulin is the gatekeeper of our cells. It opens the door, allowing glucose to enter and be used for our energy needs. Without it, our cells can't be fed.
Okay, a key point. When you eat Cheerios, okay, this is the glucose is broken up, right? And then what does your pancreas do? It releases what? Insulin. Okay, now there's insulin floating around your bloodstream, and insulin attaches to your cell and opens up the door. And where does that glucose go? It goes where? In the cell. Okay, that's how the mechanism how this works. Okay.
What if we eat more than we need? Well, along with our brain cells and muscle cells, we also have fat cells. Our cells never eat more than they need, so when we have more glucose than our cells can use.
Okay, another key point. Your cells never eat more than what they need, except one cell in your body, which is what? Fat cells are always open for what? Business. Let's say it again on 3. Fat cells are always open for what? Business. They're always willing to take on more calories. Okay, your heart, liver, pancreas, they're not willing to take on endless amounts of calories.
The excess amount is stored in our fat cells where it is converted into free fatty acids. Once the glucose is out of the bloodstream, with our cells having been fed and the surplus having been stored away in our fat cells, then insulin closes the doors to our cells and slowly leaves our body. When our body needs more energy, or glucose, and we don't have any food handy, it turns to the fat cells and the free fatty acids stored inside.
Okay, another key point. So when you don't have any glucose in your bloodstream, right? You don't have any glucose in your bloodstream, your body's going to get energy from where? Fat cells, right?
The free fatty acids leave our fat cells and go right back into the bloodstream to feed all our other cells. They don't need insulin to open the cell doors.
Okay, another key point. Huge, huge. Write this down. That if you have fats in your bloodstream, it doesn't need what?
Insulin.
Insulin. Key point. It doesn't need insulin.
They're referred to as free fatty acids. This natural process of storing fat when you have too much glucose and burning fat when you don't have enough glucose is how your body was designed to work. And in a perfect world, eating a perfect diet, everything works perfectly. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, and most of us don't even come close to eating a perfect diet. As a result, we don't benefit from this natural process very often. Instead, we suffer by storing too much fat and rarely, if ever, burning any. Let's take a look at a typical breakfast in our imperfect world. When we get up in the morning, the first thing most of us have is a breakfast fairly high in sugar and processed foods. When this kind of food enters our body, it's converted into glucose very quickly and rushes into the bloodstream. The more sugary the food, the faster and higher our blood sugar or glucose level rises. Our pancreas senses the sudden spike in glucose and responds by pumping out the insulin, creating an insulin spike to correspond to the fast-rising glucose. The insulin does its job and opens the doors to our cells. All our working cells are fed, and all the excess glucose is then stored in our fat cells. Now, this process happens fast. Once insulin arrives, the glucose level in our bloodstream goes back down pretty quickly. However, it takes much longer for insulin to leave our body. So
it takes a lot longer for insulin to leave your body, right? So here's the thing. If you have high insulin levels in your bloodstream, insulin puts things into what? Cells. Okay, insulin puts things into where? Cells. Okay, so if you have a lot of insulin floating around in your bloodstream, you can't access what? Fat. We want to be fat burners. You know why Jillian got success? Because she turned herself from a sugar burner into a what? A fat burner. You need to be fat burners. And if you're eating sugars that spike your insulin stays high the whole day, and you can't
glucose level in our bloodstream comes down fairly quickly. Our insulin level remains high, and this can be a significant problem because as long as there is insulin still in our body, we can't access the free fatty acids stored in our fat cells. Remember, free fatty acids don't need insulin to allow them into the cells, but they do need insulin to be gone before they can leave our fat cells. Our body needs to eat continually, but the free fatty acids can't leave the fat cells. On come the cravings, the irritability, and so we eat. Our glucose levels spike right back up, our body releases even more insulin, the doors open, the cells are once again fed, and excess glucose is put into our fat cells. With our insulin level remaining high, we're still not able to release any fatty acids, so we continue adding to the fat storage, but never taking any out. This cycle continues through lunch, mid-afternoon snacks, dinner, and so on. We literally end up bathing our bodies in insulin all day long, and for much of the night. After a while, all that insulin takes a toll. We age much faster than normal, and many of us develop type 2 diabetes.
Okay, age more fast because you're chronically what? What's the theme? Inflamed. Okay, so here's what happens when you eat a bunch of these sugar stuff. The insulin remains high. Here's the technique to decrease inflammation. What we do, okay, that's an inflammation. What we do is we lower your sugar levels. If you lower your sugar levels, automatically what's going to come down is what? Your insulin. It comes down automatically. And if that comes down automatically, guess what happens to your inflammation? It goes what? Down. And you restore function in your body into your cells. Now here, this is on your slide, okay? This is this is like where we get in the why it's so critical to be a fat burner. You want to be fat burners, not sugar burners, okay? So this right here, all right, this is one product that everybody here needs to use. Okay, this is called brain octane. All right, so why is this so significant? Okay, so this is called brain octane. This is on your notes. It's called caprylic acid. That's just the name of the particular fat here. Okay, brain octane. Okay, so brain octane. For your body, once you take this, for your body to take this fat and convert it into energy is 3 steps. 1, 2, 3, you have energy. Fat is a very clean fuel. Now, if you have sugar, sugar takes how many steps? 26. So when you burn sugar, this is a very dirty fuel. It takes a lot of work to burn sugar versus fat. This particular fat right in here, which comes from coconut oil, takes how many steps to make energy? 3. Okay, now here, I just want to show you the chemistry of it, right? So this is proteins, carbohydrates, fats. You see this, all this junk up in here? Okay, this is where sugar has to go. This is like all these different steps. Your body has to convert it and convert it and convert it. Versus fat, it goes right into here, fat down here, and into, this is right here is energy. So the fats skip this whole process right here, and they go right into your cell to make what? Energy. Okay, so this is why this caprylic acid, this brain octane, is so critical. So in the morning, right, I'll be going over this little recipe. I basically just consuming lots and lots of fat, because that fat immediately goes into what? Energy. When you use all this glucose and it takes all these steps to convert it into energy, 26 steps, there's a lot of byproducts. And so when there's a lot of byproducts, that's going to cause your body to be chronically what? Inflamed, okay? So now here's the critical step. The key to this whole thing is good, healthy fats, not proteins, right? You should be eating proteins, but for example, like when I eat my chicken, when I get the chicken, I'm going to douse a bunch of butter on it. Because chicken is very what? Lean. It doesn't have a lot of fat. We're looking for fat, right? So when I get the hamburger, I get free-range hamburger, I get the most fattiest hamburger meat, right? You can get like the 95, 90, 85% fat, right? I get whatever it is, 85 or 80% fat, because that's fattier meats. So what happens here, people will say, well, I don't eat any carbohydrates. Then I'll say, well, how many proteins are you eating? Well, I'm eating a lot of protein. Now here's a really critical point. This is protein up here. Your protein can be broken down into different things. And one of the things that it can be broken down to is what? What is that? Glucose. So some people, right, and I find this to be people that have a hard time losing weight, will convert protein into what? Glucose. Very what? Efficiently. So even though they're eating no carbohydrates, they may be eating a lot of protein, and they can't lose what? Weight, and they're still chronically what? Inflamed. Because that pathway in your body is going to what? Glucose. Now guess what? There's only one pathway that fats go to. Fats go down to and make fatty acids, which is the smallest use of energy. Everyone tracking with that? Okay, so we need these good, healthy fats to be converted. Now, another critical point with this C8 here, right? So in the blood, okay, the blood is water, right? The blood is water. Why is this so critical? Because this is a small fat molecule. It's very small. So your body doesn't know if it's water or if it's fat. It can't tell the difference. So if it doesn't know if it's water or fat, guess what happens? It sits right here. Let's say this is your bloodstream right here. It can float around in your bloodstream by itself. Like this would be the little C8. It just floats around right in the bloodstream. It doesn't need a carrier. These big fat molecules, because they're so fat, and water and fat they don't mix, right? So you have to actually have a ship to move around fats in your body. This right here doesn't need any what? Carriers, right? So it can get right in your bloodstream, and then if this is your cell right here, this is your energy cell, this fat can get right into what? the cell. Very, very efficiently. It skips all these steps. So if you're eliminating the steps for something to be broken down into fuel, you're going to have more energy. Your brain fog is going to go away. You're just going to feel better because the energy is actually getting into the cells very, very efficiently. Okay? So here's what happens. So remember what I told you is your cells become very what? Crusty. Okay, so let's say your cells become very crusty right here. This is very crusty. So this is going to be the blood right here. Blood. Okay? So what happens here, if your cells become very crusty, and let's say you have a bunch of sugar floating around in here, this is sugar, they become very crusty, the sugar cannot actually get into the cell. Okay, so this is what they call when you're diabetic, the sugar just sits there. And when people are diabetic, I'll say, well, are you hungry all the time? They'll say, yes, I'm hungry all the time. But even though your blood sugar is high, you're still hungry. Why is that? Because the energy isn't actually getting to where? The cell. It's not getting in there. It doesn't do anyone any good to have sugar in your bloodstream. It needs to be where? In the cell. So if you're inflamed, that sugar cannot get from the bloodstream where? Into your and produce energy. It can't. Okay? Now guess what? This C8, this brain octane, floats around right here and easily penetrates into the cell and makes energy. Why does it easily penetrate? Because it doesn't need a carrier and it's fat. And what's the outside of your cells we're all what? Fat. Right? So this energy gets immediately into the cell and starts producing what? Energy. Okay? Not just energy for like to feel energetic, but energy, whatever cell it is. Let's say this is your heart cell, energy for your heart, energy for your digestive system, energy for your skin, okay? So these are really critical things that need to be done. So within here, within the cell, there's these little cells right here which are called mitochondria, okay? So this is where the fuel, this is where the energy is actually made, is in those little cells, the mitochondria, okay? So this is I'm going to go over the mitochondria thing right now. Okay? Okay, so this is just some stats. The cells and parts of your body that require the most energy, okay, is the brain, retina, and heart. They require the most energy. In each cell, in each little of these cells here, there can be 10,000 mitochondria. The mitochondria are the power engine of the cell. Right? That's the engine in your car. You lift up the hood, the engine, that's the mitochondria. 10,000 mitochondria in your brain, retina, and heart. So why is it when people have brain fog? Because their mitochondria is not working. The energy isn't there. As soon as you start giving it energy, what happens to your brain? It starts to what? Starts to function, okay? And then here, so when your neurons have energy problems, you get cognitive impairment, brain fog. When your heart cells have mitochondria defects, you get heart dysfunction, tired and feeling tired. When your muscle cells, okay, fibromyalgia. Like when I see people with fibromyalgia and do labs, guess what happens? Their labs are way what? They're inflamed, right? Because the energy can't get into the cell. The energy can't get into the cell can't function. So your muscle cells can't make energy. You see symptoms of what? Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. When your small intestinal cells have energy problems, you have what? Leaky gut and autoimmune disease. Now check this out. Keep in mind that your cells, here's the thing, your cells cannot store energy for more than a few seconds. So you always need to be giving your cells supply of energy. One neuron in your brain uses 4.7 billion, this is energy molecules per second. All right, here's some studies that have shown. The authors found that elevated CRP, right, there's an inflammation marker, right, were associated with what? Worse global cognition. They did an experiment with mice. Too much insulin degrades what organ? Every organ in the body, including the brain. In one study, 18 mice that ate high sugar diets for just 2 months exhibited significant decreases in cognitive impairment. Okay? So what happens here, this is your cell. All right, this is your cell right here. This is the mitochondria. This is where the energy goes in and starts to work. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to convert you from a sugar burner to what? Fat burner. In particular, certain fats that are more efficient and will get in the cell efficiently and start to produce energy. When you're chronically inflamed, this is your mitochondria. This is a healthy mitochondria. Lots of energy production. When you're inflamed, what's happening with the energy production? It's what? Decreased. Okay, so the cell's not going to function well. A normal cell will have 1,000 to 2,000 mitochondria. I'm just going to take a survey. How many people would say that they're fatigued? I just want to raise your hand if you feel like you're fatigued. Okay. Out of those people, how many people have vision problems? Raise your hand. How many people have vision problems? Okay, about half of those. Okay. All right, so here's the thing. Now, getting back to this oil, right, which is caprylic, which is C8, it's found in coconut oil. Okay, so this is found in coconut oil. It's the rarest. So coconut oil is made out of many different fats. Okay, just like Ford has many different cars. Okay, coconut oil has many different fats. Caprylic acid, which is the C8, which is in this, is the rarest form. Okay. It has antibacterial properties to help maintain healthy gut, and it's the fastest to metabolize in the brain. Here's the key step. You would need to consume how many tablespoons? 18 tablespoons of coconut oil to get 1 tablespoon of what? Brain octane. Okay, so this stuff is massively what? Concentrated for energy production immediately. C8 will increase your energy in the heart by what? 25 to 30%. Because when you switch from glucose, right, when you switch from glucose to good, healthy fats, what are we doing? We're eliminating all this junk right here. You're cutting out all that stuff there that causes debris, causes your body to be chronically inflamed, okay? So, in my opinion, this is what I take as a C8, the brain octane. You can buy this Now brand, but it's a mixture of C8 and C10. I'll cook with this, but if I'm going to put this in my coffee or on food, I'm going to use that. Okay. So here's one of my patients. We did some functional medicine stuff. She was diabetic. Where do we want your insulin levels? Look on your sheet on the back. Where do we want your fasting insulin levels to be what? 5 or less, right? Okay, so she came to me, right, and what was her level? Her level was what? 46. Okay, this is where we rechecked it, and now we got it down to 6 to 14. Okay? So right there, what do we know? Like, she was a sugar burner, then we converted her on her way to a what? A fat burner. Okay? Okay, so these are some key steps. So daily fasting, 10 to 12 hours. Okay, so how do you actually end up fasting 10 to 12 hours? And I'll tell you what I do. Okay, do the bulletproof coffee, which I'll be explaining in a second. Use the brain octane. If you don't drink coffee, you can put this in tea. But you can just take this by itself. If you put a salad, you can just put this on your salad. If you have an avocado, you can just put this on your avocado. You just want to use this, right, as much as possible. And depending on where you are on the spectrum of like how many problems you have, you probably need more depending on how many problems you actually have. I have other videos on this, okay, but cut high glycemic foods out, which turn into sugar very quickly. Every meal must have a good healthy source of what? Fats. You got to have a good healthy source of fats and eliminate processed foods. Go gluten free. Get a glucose meter. And again, eliminate high glycemic foods. Now this also too, when you cook, you want to cook with this Kerrygold butter. Okay, so this is also in the recipe, which is going to be coming up in a little bit. So you want to cook with this, and you want to put this stuff in your coffee as well, because this Kerrygold butter, the animals are grazed on grass. Okay, so if you take a slice of this Kerrygold butter, and you want the silver kind, which is non-salted, okay? You take a slice of this Kerrygold butter and you put it up to conventional butter, the Kerrygold butter is going to be like a sun. It's going to be so bright and yellow because that's all the good, healthy fats, right? So when I make that chicken and all that stuff, that's the kind of butter I'm using because that's good, healthy fats. So what happens here is in your cell membrane, so this is another tidbit to decrease your body's inflammation, is this would be fish oil. This is what, you see how fish oil is kind of round? Okay, that's like the actual fatty acid, it's round, okay? So why you want to have these fish oils is because here, you don't want to have everything nice and solid. This decreases your body inflammation. If you start taking fish oil, what happens to your cell membrane? It becomes more what? Fluid. And when it becomes more fluid, that's when things can get in and outside of the cell. So this is why, like if you're not taking fish oil, like you need to be taking fish oil womb to tomb, because that's going to decrease your body's inflammation, because it allows things to get in and outside of those cells. Here's another good fat, would be the olive oil, right? So this is, so when you use the Kerrygold butter, right, that's a saturated fat. You see how it's nice and straight there? Okay, so now the olive oil is crooked, so when it's crooked and that gets in your cell membranes become very what? Pliable. They allow things to get in and out of the cell, and when that happens, what happens to your body's inflammation? It goes what? Down. Okay, so then you start to heal and function much better. Okay, this is on your sheet here. I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's kind of, you can pull this up on the internet, bigger. So what do you start to eat? What do you start to incorporate things? You just start looking in here, and all these top things would be things that have good, healthy fats. This guy, David Asprey, he's like a freaking animal when it comes to functional medicine. He's like one of the cutting edge experts in the field right now. He's the one that has developed the brain octane as well, and that's where I get this from. So these are all the good, healthy fats. So you want to be on the top here and start eating those things, because then you're giving your body fuel all the time, good, healthy fats to be used all the time. Here's some recipes, but you can just see this recipe in here. So this is a steak dinner, okay? So what is he putting in there? He's putting in there what? Brain octane, okay? So he's 1 tablespoon of brain octane, and then then how many tablespoons of butter? 4. Kerrygold butter. So all these recipes are doused with what? Butter and fat, right? I mean, everyone likes fat. Like, it tastes good. I mean, I love fat. It tastes very, very good.
It fills you up.
And it fills you up, just like Jillian says, you're not hungry.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Why does it fill you up? Because you don't have those sugar spikes that go up and what? Down. See, this is a problem. You have up and down spikes. You're hungry. Changing to fats, good healthy fats, decreases your body inflammation, and you don't have those hunger pains because you don't have these huge sugar spikes. Decreases your inflammation, and you start to heal and function much better. Okay, here's some other things here. I'm just showing you these for examples, right? So what is this? This is a pork dinner. He's got 2 tablespoons of brain octane and then 1.5 tablespoons of butter. So you're just using a lot of butter. And the thing is, for years and years, butter's been what? Demonized. Like, you're going to die. I mean, it's totally bonk stuff, right? Like, this is like the cutting edge stuff. Increase butter, increase good healthy fats. All right, so this is what I do in the morning. And I'm religious about this, and I enjoy this experience very, very much, okay? So this is my bulletproof coffee. So I try and fast 10 to 12 hours a day. So, well, how do I actually do that? Okay. So I don't eat any food. I try not to eat after 8 p.m. Then when I get up in the morning, I like coffee. So I'll drink like 25 ounces of coffee. That is my breakfast. So what do I put in there? I'll put Kerrygold butter. I'll put 2 or 3 tablespoons of butter in my Vitamix. Then on top of that, I'll put 1 full container, right, of this brain octane. I don't know how much that is. I think it's about 2 tablespoons. I'll put that in there. Okay, then I'll blend that up, and then that will be my breakfast. People are like, coffee for breakfast? Because it is all what? This is all fat, right? So immediately, I'm not eating anything. If you don't eat any fat, what happens to your insulin levels? It goes what? Down. It doesn't affect your insulin. So then my cells are immediately getting energy right away into the cells, and then I'll eat like at noon. So then I'll be fasting, literally fasting for 10 hours. I don't consider this to be food because it doesn't actually affect your insulin levels, right? So I put the Kerrygold butter in there, I put the brain octane, and sometimes here I'll put this collagen in there as well. So this is just a little protein source. I tell people if you have diabetes or you're trying to lose weight, you probably should avoid this initially. But this is just protein in there that it doesn't taste like anything, so sometimes I'll put this in there. So that's like what I do. So if people want to purchase this stuff, I didn't know how many people to expect. Basically, if you want to purchase it, we have some limited availability, but after tonight, we'll make a big order, right, so people can have it. So if people want this stuff, the brain octane, you have a couple different choices. You can get this big one, which is 58, or you can get this small one, which is 26. and then the collagen here, or I'm sorry, 28, so 56 and 28, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then the collagen is $28, right? So we have limited supply, but once people make an order, we'll have it in late next week. And then the Kerrygold butter, you can find this anywhere at Target, anywhere you want, you can find it.
It's cheaper at Trader Joe's.
It's Trader Joe's? Okay. Okay, so the next thing here I want to talk about is called grounding. How many people have heard of grounding? Okay, grounding. Okay, so I read a lot and I listen to a lot of stuff, and when I talk about this, I'm like listening to like leading professionals in the functional medicine arena, right? And they would always come to grounding. Everyone would say grounding. Basically, it's putting your feet on the ground. And I would just read that, I'm like, that's voodoo, that is totally BS. Right, I'm like, that's BS, I'm never gonna do that. And then I just kept on reading, all these guys are saying grounding. So then I actually did some investigation on it, and I ground myself, because I think it's a really valuable source, and it's very simple and easy. And I'm gonna show you why I think it's so critical, and there's tons and tons of research on it, okay? So, and this actually helps with a lot of energy productions, and I'll be showing you that in a minute. So what happens here is that we're going to be talking about grounding or earthing, okay? The earth is negatively charged, all right? So the earth is negatively charged, okay? That's a key concept.
Okay.
So here's a video when it comes to grounding, what it actually is.
So we all know the sun's energy is crucial for good health. But do you know that the earth's energy is too? When we make direct contact with the surface of the earth, our bodies receive a charge of energy that makes us feel better, fast. This is called earthing. You see, throughout history, people were always naturally absorbing the earth's energy. But in today's world, we live most of our lives inside. And even when we do go outside, we usually wear shoes, which prevent us from connecting. So, of course, we often feel drained and achy, because we go days or even years without ever touching the earth. But it doesn't have to be this way. You can start receiving the benefits of earthing by going barefoot outside. The more time, the better. This alone can be life-changing, and it's free. And if you love feeling great while earthing outdoors, now you can start earthing indoors too. Simply connect your earthing product into the third hole of an outlet, which directly connects to the existing ground rod of your home. This connection lets you safely and conveniently receive Earth's energy from wherever you are.
Okay, I know this. People are like thinking, this is totally weird. I'm telling you, I've read lots and lots of books on this. This is legitimate. This is cutting edge stuff, okay? So here's what happens. When you, and I'm doing this, I bought a sheet, right? That I have this thing that I plug in, and it's grounding. So basically how electricity works is this third outlet here is connected to the ground, which is this is key, which is negatively charged. Okay, so when I plug this thing in here, then I'm absorbing the negative electrons on the earth. And you'll see why this is so critical.
Working or playing, and especially while you're sleeping. Because while earthing, you'll sleep deeper, feel more refreshed in the morning, and wake up looking terrific. And the best part? Anyone can benefit from this life-changing discovery. It's a no-brainer. Start earthing today to look better, feel better, and sleep better. Guaranteed.
Okay, now this is why earthing is so critical in this next slide here, okay? So he hooked himself up to a voltage meter. He's going to show you how much voltage, right? There's, like, electricity is 120 voltage. That's positive, right? So he's going to show you what kind of electricity we're all getting exposed to.
And there's our voltmeter, just sitting in the middle of my room. I'm being hit by almost 2 volts, 1.9 volts. Look at that, it's almost at 2 volts. If I was in nature, if I was in the great bosom of a forest, if I was in the woods, that would be 0. It would be absolutely at 0. Whenever I'm barefoot, it's at 0. Watch when I go barefoot on my desk pad right below me here. Boom. It already instantly dropped it to 26.5 millivolts.
Okay, so he's on a grounding pad. How many people do computer work? Raise your hand if you just sit in front of a computer. Okay. So voltage is positive, right? The earth is what? Earth is what?
Negative.
We need negative ions in our body. Okay? We need negative ions. So just sitting here, we're exposed to roughly 2 volts. We're talking about like a battery, 9-volt battery. Okay, we're exposed to 2 volts just sitting here, which is positively charged ions.
They come off, it's 1.97 volts. That's a very small volt indicator right there, but nevertheless, watch again. Boom. 26 millivolts, come off again, 1.9 volts. If I ground here as well,
That's
boom,
the grounding
I can
thing
get
that
it
he's
even
using.
lower. Now we're at 14 millivolts. So you see, the more that you can be grounded, the better. But I don't have a device in my hand. Let's see what happens when I have a device in my hand. Let's see how much voltage is coming off. We are now going to look at this iPad. Look at the voltage here. Look at this. I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to slide it open. Let's say I'm punching in my numbers here, my code and all that. 24 volts.
Okay, so this is not BS, man. This is a meter. He has this iPad in his hand, and this meter is registering 24 volts of electricity through his body. Right? That's like 2 9-volt batteries. So that energy is affecting his whole entire body.
24 volts of electricity are hitting me right now. That is one of the highest numbers I've ever seen. I've been grounding myself for years. I've been playing around with devices for years. That is absolutely outrageous. When I touch the grounding desk pad here, look what happens. It dropped to 0.72 volts.
Okay, so 24 volts to what? Point what? 7. So if you're sitting at a computer all day typing, you're getting bombarded with voltage. That stuff is absorbing your electrons, and in a minute I'll show you, you need electrons to make energy. If you don't have electrons in your body to make, if you don't have enough electrons, you don't make what? Energy. Energy is developed through electrons. You start getting good healthy fats, you put electrons in your body, you're going to start to produce what? Energy. Okay, so since I've had this grounding sheet, right, I've slept the best in my life. I mean, it's no lie, like I'm doing it. I've slept the best that I've slept in a long time.
0.73 volts. And if I'm touching this, and I'm touching my iPad, and then I ground here, look at that. It dropped it to 205 millivolts. 100 times decrease. Let go of everything, look what happens. It jumps right back to 24 volts. This grounding technology is absolutely essential for protection. It also gives us energy. The earth is naturally negatively electrically charged. This is a static charge, and it's an irritant. And we don't know exactly how to discharge it generally, but we just found out here what to do. We walk outside barefoot, boom, it's pushed off of us. If I just step on here, boom, it's pushed off of us. We can change our internal environment in our homes by having this grounding technology around. This mouse pad, this desk pad are essential to every single person using a computer in the world. The knowledge of what I'm sharing here is essential to every single person who's working at a computer or working near appliances in the world. Once we understand this, we can protect ourselves, we can protect our family, we can transform our homes, we can change our work environments.
Okay, simple stuff. You can buy one of these things for like $60 or $70, and you can use it as a mouse pad while you're working. Very simple things. Now, why is this so critical? This is the next slide here, what I'm going to show you here, and this is actually where is energy produced is in the mitochondria, right? Okay, so I'm just going to show you a little bit here, just some little quick stuff here. So here, this is the mitochondria. Okay, this is where energy is being produced. Okay, energy is being produced in here, and what are these little things right there? What are those little yellow things? They are what?
Electrons.
They're electrons. They are what? Negative. Negative. Right? So if you don't have negative electrons in your body, you're not going to make what? Energy. This is like a very simple thing, right? It's like the simplest things in life. The things that get results are the simplest things. You restore the energy into the body, into the mitochondria, it can start to produce energy. Now on top of that, if you decrease your body's inflammation, you're an energy what? Bunny. Okay? This all adds up. Okay? Now here, so anyway, so this is just a little slide, right? Just show this is the negative ions, which is basically from the earth, and this produces energy, and this is going to make good, healthy mitochondria. And there's 2 to 1,000 to 10,000 mitochondria, depending on what cell it's in. Now, this is also on the blood work here. So at the end here, if people want to do some blood work, there's going to be an option to do this. Now, what happens here? This is a measurement. You can see this is your red blood cell, and you can see around the red blood cells, it should be what? Negatively charged. Okay? When people are chronically inflamed, the charge around the red blood cell diminishes. And when it starts to diminish, guess what? The cells start to what? What's happening here? They stick together. Right? You need these negative ions to repel the red blood cells from each other. And when you're chronically inflamed, you lose the electrons and you're more positively charged. Because right now when I hold this iPad, I'm getting how many volts of energy through my body? 24. Which is positive energy. Positive. Okay? So you can actually measure this right here. It's called the sedimentation rate. And the higher this woman has 45, the higher it is, that means that all of these red blood cells are sticking together, and it's a measurement. Okay? He's going to show you some red blood cells of people that have grounded before and after pictures.
And we're going to look at their blood. You guys want to check this out? So this is before and after grounding. So this is subject one of the folks who was in our audience right here. That's their blood before. This is 45 minutes later.
Can you see that as clumped? Yep. See how they're individual? Okay, you just put negative ions in the body.
Next one here. All right, and you can just see what's happening. Look at it. See, there we have the agglutinated blood, the coagulated blood. There's the free-form electrostatically charged blood. Let's go to subject 3.
You can see that a little better, huh? Like here, you see how they're sticking together, but they're real separated.
There you see the grounded blood again, 45 minutes later. Subject 4, look at that.
There's a good one. That's probably the best one, huh? Little individual cells, you see all they're clumped together, right? So this is just like grounding, okay?
We're electrical creatures way before we're chemical creatures. Electricity affects you immediately.
Okay, I got 2 more slides and we're done. So this is what I bought here. They're a queen size sheet. It's kind of pricey. It's $200, but it lasts you forever, right? It's going to last you forever. So this is what I sleep on. Or if you want to just have something for your computer, if you do a lot of computer work, you just buy this one right here, and then you just sit that up on your keyboard, and anytime that you would touch this thing, you got to have some skin touching it. But if you touch the mouse, you're going to be grounded, and you're not going to be so bombarded with all these electrons on there. Or you can even get something a little cheaper. This is called an earthing mat. Okay, same kind of principles. You just stick that into the outlet, and then you're grounded. So this is what I do. So I've got my grounding or my earthing pad. So if people want to sleep well, okay, this is my secret recipe to sleep well. Because when you sleep well, this is when your mitochondria and your energy your mitochondria are recovering. So before I go to bed, I'll microwave of water, like that much water, just a little bit of water. I'll take 2 big scoops of this, which is magnesium. Basically, it's magnesium citrate, right? Put it in there, and then I'll put a scoop of this collagen in there. Just warm it up a little bit, just stir it, and then drink it. And then I sleep on my grounding mat, and I'm telling you, I've gotten the best sleep that I've gotten in the last week than I've ever gotten before because of this grounding mat and these 2 different things here that I'm doing. Okay, so here's, every time I do one of these workshops, if people are interested, okay, so what I've done here, if people are interested, this is the panel. Basically, it's an inflammation panel. So this is what we would run on everyone here. So we would run a fasting insulin, fasting glucose, an A1C, right? You want that less than 5.2. We'd run a full, we check your total cholesterol, your LDL, triglycerides, should be less than 100. We'd check your CRP, which is an inflammatory marker, then your SED rate, which your SED rate is, let me just see that. That's this marker right here that tells us if your cells are sticking together, the electrons, okay? So we would run that as a group. You go and get it done, and then we would come back basically Wednesday, July 7th, or I'm sorry, June 7th at 6 p.m. And we would just discuss the labs and discuss some solutions where you need to go and what you need to do. This at least gives you a basic baseline on how inflamed you actually are. And when people see numbers, numbers don't what? Lie. Like people get motivated by these numbers, and once they're educated, it says, holy smokers, I need to do something. These numbers are bad. And I can tell you this. I've seen lots, I've run hundreds and hundreds of labs on people. People that have problems are chronically inflamed. This is going to show how you're inflamed. This is the basic thing that you can do to see if you're inflamed. So it's $167, and then we send you to the lab. We don't take the blood here. It's at Quest Diagnostics, just like 5 minutes from here. Okay, so give yourself a round of applause. You made it to the workshop. I tried to speak as fast as I could. If you have questions, come up and ask me one-on-one. And then you can see Mara and Jillian if you want to order any product or if you want to do the labs.
I haven't heard that one. No way, here. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, right. And the one visit, or the one group visit.
I'm glad you're doing that.
No. Yeah, the website's on there. It's just go earthing here. Earthing. I got mine on Amazon because I wasn't sure what cost.
I want to show the numbers.
On that?
Hi, Darcy.
You don't even notice it.
I'm just like,
It's not like you
that
get.
lady looks familiar.
It's not like you get shocked or anything like that. It's like you don't do anything. You wouldn't even know. You have no idea. I mean, you see it.
You know what? Right at the very beginning, I started in my mind calling you Darcy.
Oh, okay. I think he's got a fine needle on
Every
there.
time, that's what I think he does. Yeah. Okay. And then